This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to the agenda this evening? Anything down there? The only disclaimer I'll throw in before we go down the path is I'd like to do the old business number 3 just like the way we normally do with the our joint meeting, where we go to the zoning administrator and then to the applicant and then to the public. Has anybody got any heartache with that? All right. Anybody else have anything we need to add or clarify to the agenda? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. As always, general public comment. Do we have any general public comment? Anybody? All right. We're going to do it another 2 times, I guess. Yes, ma'am. All right, we do have a consent agenda. We've got minutes from 5/14/2024 and then a supplemental appropriation number 14. Mr. Weekly, you have anything to say about, or Ms. Warren, anything to say about the supplemental appropriation?
No, sir, unless you have questions. I did provide in the packet a memo from Chief Hillstrom.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would like to note that the contingency general operations balance after the supplemental is included on the supplemental appropriation. And we did submit a reimbursement request to VDEM in the amount of $70,000 to $63.91 for the emergency event wildfire. And if this is approved, the county will be reimbursed in FY25.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions on this supplemental appropriation? What would y'all like to do with the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No special appearances. We do have our zoning case. Case number S-03-24-20. Brian Kelly has applied for a by right subdivision of a 21-acre A1 agricultural zoned lot. The subdivision would create 3 new 3-acre lots and a residue lot of 12 acres. The subject lot does not contain a postal address, but it is located at an intersection of Leathers Road and Etland Road and is identified on Madison County tax maps as 14-9A. Ms. Clatterbrook, what would you like to add, or new stuff, I guess?
So I just wanted to review, when we had the joint public hearing on May the 1st, you all came back with some concerns, and I wanted to briefly review some of those that I have included in the staff memo.
Yes, ma'am.
Just some updates. So the first thing was well concerns that were previously discussed. Under Article 7-5-12 of the zoning ordinance, it states supporting data shall include, and I'm not gonna read the entire thing, plans for water supply and sewage disposal. In new documentation that you all were provided is a full copy of the on-site soil evaluators report, which does include, the well locations for the proposed lots. It is my opinion, based on the code section listed there, that the applicant has met that by us having the documentation from the OSE's report. And also I included in your packet, just for follow-up, confirmation from the health department that did include well and septic approval as well. The second thing that we talked about was the contours, topography, and slope. There is frankly nothing in our zoning ordinance that addresses slope regulation. Slope regulation is mentioned in the comprehensive plan for the C1 zoning district only. As you know from a recent meeting, the board has directed the planning commission to look at possibly adding some slope regulations to additional zoning districts, or any zoning district period, frankly. So just based on that information, I feel as staff, I did not have the authority to require the applicant to show the contours on the proposed subdivision plat. So what I included in your packet was the contours, which are available on our web, on our GIS site, excuse me. It does show 20-foot contours. I did include 2 maps to reference that for your information. Also, the next, stop me please if you have questions, otherwise I'm just gonna quickly run through this. The next question or concern was related to the lot width frontage. So where I come from in a different locality, this is enforced a little bit different, but based on how our ordinance is written in Madison County, it does say 250 feet at the setback line. The applicant, based on his survey plat, does meet that requirement. I did get confirmation, if you remember prior, there was a discussion of, there was a line that was not clearly identified or on the map, on the plat, excuse me. And I did get confirmation from the surveyor that it is 105 feet of road frontage for that particular lot, not the 50-some, I think, that we previously discussed that night. So I do feel like based on how our code is worded, that is met. Last, and probably the biggest thing, are erosion, sediment, and stormwater regulations. So in our subdivision ordinance under 4-3-2, it speaks to stormwater management plan. It does say, again, not reading the whole thing, shall be a condition of approval of every subdivision plat. Same thing under 4-3-3 of erosion control. On May the 2nd, the applicant came in and met with myself and Joe Sexton, who is the erosion and sediment administrator, and of course stormwater. And the difficulty on our end from a staff perspective, again, I'm sharing this as from staff point of view, is what we're being told by the applicant is he does not have plans at this time to stick a shovel in the ground. He has no plans to remove dirt. He has no plans to install an entrance. He has plans to, should this get approved, it be sold. Actually, it's being advertised, as most of you know, on the real estate's website currently. So from our point of view as staff, it's a little bit difficult to require any sort of erosion sediment and E&S plan at this time, because normally when someone is coming in to build a home, for example, they are required to file it's called an agreement in lieu of, which is required for the home. Of course, the drain field is factored in. You can't go over a certain amount of land before stormwater is required. I'm not gonna go into all of that, because again, I did detail it in the memo here. But that is our difficulty now. So should these things, because of where it's at, because of the slope, should these things be addressed once, again, prior to any disturbance? Absolutely. And the only reassurance that I can give you is Article 8-1 of the subdivision ordinance, which says no permit will be issued by any administrative officer of Madison County, Virginia, for the construction or any building or other improvements requiring a permit upon any land concerning which a plat is required by this ordinance, unless and until the requirements of this ordinance have been complied with. I guess in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, we don't know what permit to give him because he's not doing any land disturbance at this time. I don't have anything further unless you have specific questions for me.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Clatterbuck? Please.
Thank you, Ms. Clatterbuck, for all the information and all the work you did. So just to summarize, and I believe you've already stated this, with regard to this application, Mr. Kelly has complied with all of our current zoning regulations for this by right subdivision. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other questions from Mr. Clatterbuck? Please,
I
Mr.
just want to
Weekley.
make a statement, and forgive me for not, let me look at the last page. I know Scott by his first name, but I want to refer, so Mr. Scott Eula, he's at 251 Gibson Hollow Lane, owns Descartes Vineyard. He submitted to staff, and each of you have a copy. I'm not sure if it's been emailed or not. He wanted his written comments to be part of the public record. I circulated that to each of you all prior to the start of the meeting, so. And he also said he would like to have some available to the public, so if you wish to see those comments, we have made those available here tonight.
All right, any questions for Mr. Weekley? Hannon, do you have anything to add on this?
I also reviewed that email this afternoon. I appreciate Ms. Clatterbuck and all the work she's done on this. I would just say that it is written to say these things are required in the subdivision ordinance. But at the same time, the ordinance can't be read in a way that it leads to a sort of an absurd result, which I think is the point Ms. Clatterbuck is making here, which is that, for example, somebody could move less than 10,000 square feet of soil, and it would never require one of these permits to begin with, or plans to begin with. And so I agree that you can read, for TAC 3, TAC 1, and for TAC 3, TAC 2 that way. But as Mr. Sexton also told us last week when he came in, and it was helpful for me also to hear him, just as a practical matter, that, the way they sequence these things is all that stuff becomes, erosion, sediment control, stormwater management is when somebody's going to actually apply for the permit and is hoping to, move some dirt. And so understood that what this says, but as a practical matter, it's just not the way it works, is my understanding of the county. So I'll leave it to the board whether that is another thing for the Plan Commission to touch on and look at, but I would say that I concur with Ms. Clatterbuck.
Any questions for Ms. Clatterbuck, Mr. Weekley, or Mr. Wright? All right, thank you. Mr. Kelly, anything to add?
Thank you. Nothing really to add aside from
Sure.
And the documentation that Ms. Clatterback was referring to was part of the application.
Yes, sir.
About it.
Any questions for Mr. Kelly? Anybody?
Not yet.
No? Well, we may come back to it, Mr. Kelly. Thank you. To the public, if you have public comment on this case, please go up, identify yourself, and tell us what you think.
Hello, my name is Martha McCula, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to this subdivision application in opposition to it. The application for code is a development. The Article 3.1 of zoning, Appendix A, says that any lot, parcel, or tract of land which is to contain 3 or more residential units is a subdivision. And so this application as a development should be held to the requirements of a development, particularly in regard to a stormwater management plan, pardon me, I'm getting over a cold, and an erosion sediment control plan before it's approved or denied. My main objection is that the stormwater management and erosion control provision in the code is not being enforced. Appendix 2 of the subdivision of Madison County Code is clear on the requirement that these plans shall be a condition for approval of every subdivision plat. Article 4.3.2 says proper approval of a stormwater management plan as required by the Madison County Water Protection Ordinance shall be a condition of approval of every subdivision plat. 4.3.3, erosion control, says proper approval of plans and specifications of temporary during construction and permanent soil erosion sedimentation controls as required by the Madison County Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance shall be a condition for approval of every subdivision plat. It's wrong not to enforce this requirement now at the subdivision plan level, approval stage. To not do so effectively guts this critical provision in the code. The opportunity to, on another subject, the opportunity to subdivide land with by right uses is important to all of us, but it needs to be done according to code. Perhaps creating 1 to 2 lots on this property, which is topographically very challenging, as we all know, or none at all, is what the conditions of this parcel dictate, and reports and studies will reveal. Perhaps then the applicant should come forward with a revised plan. In conclusion, the opening article of the subdivision ordinance states that the ordinance is to guide and facilitate the orderly, beneficial growth of the community by assuring the orderly subdivision of land and its development, and to promote the public health, safety, convenience, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare. I would assert that this application is not orderly. It has odd-shaped lots that are on top of each other and unsafe driveway entrances. It's not beneficial. It does not promote public health, safety, convenience, comfort, or general welfare. I respectfully request that you deny this application. Thank you for your attention.
Ma'am?
Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, for our clerk, just for the record, because she does our minutes, can you state your name again, please?
Yes, my name is Martha McCula, M-I-K-U-L.
Thank you so much.
Other public comment? Any other public comment?
Good evening, everyone.
In your name, Mr. McCullough?
That's the first name on my,
Yeah, good. Yes, sir. Apologize.
I am Martin McCoy, speaking as one of the property owners and residents that will be impacted by the proposed development. My
My comments focus on the particulars of this steep mountain parcel. This parcel is a drainage buffer, area that receives runoff from the properties above it and from Leathers Road. This parcel also performs as an upland watershed for the county and the state. Both roles are critical for flood control. Both roles are protected by provisions in the Madison Code. Dismantling these slopes with development impairs the land's ability to function as an upland watershed. It concentrates the stormwater runoff, and it undermines the fragile ecostructure of this hillside. For obvious reason, owing to this parcel's terrain and steepness, it has long gone undeveloped, while the land surrounding it have been parceled into home sites. This parcel of land was set aside from the local subdivision by Mr. Graves for sound reasons. Rain is the biggest effect right now. In a landscape architecture course I had, the one thing you had to know to pass the course was that water runs downhill. It will rain. 1 inch of rain generates 27,000 gallons an acre, equivalent to one residential 20 by 40 foot swimming pool. Now 4 inches of rain yields over 100,000 gallons an acre. On June 27th, 95, rain came down in Syria at the rate of 4 inches an hour. Okay, that's 1 million gallons an hour of stormwater runoff from the 10 acres above the site that would have been inundating it. At the same time, another 2 million gallons an hour of rainfall is falling onto this site, all but cascading down these steep slopes. The steeper the slope, the faster the runoff, the greater the destruction. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, storm events of this magnitude occur once every 3 years in the Appalachians. Intense rain events trigger landslides on steep hillsides. Routine wind and rain events uproot and topple trees on steep hillsides. In the 95 flash floods and rain-induced landslides that struck Madison, residents and livestock perished. The U.S. Geological Survey detected 550 landslides in Madison using aerial reconnaissance, and then once on the ground, they detected up to 25% more that were in the 30-foot width range, putting the total at just under 700 from that one event. Debris flows have their inception as shallow landslides or soil slips on steep slopes of about 30 degrees. A 30-foot wide mud, rock, or landslide on a steep slope is lethal. A single dislodged boulder careening down the slope is lethal. A single uprooted tree toppling over on a steep hillside can be lethal. According to the U.S. government's weather website, the worst natural disaster ever to strike Virginia was the flash floods in September of '69, resulting in over 100 fatalities, rain-induced landslides, and over 100 injured, and half as many that just disappeared and they never found. So this is not just somebody blowing smoke. Donna, who's here, her house is basically in the impact area where everything off that hill, all 3+ million gallons come down, hit that stream, and go right to her front door. And so when, at the last meeting when she spoke about she didn't want that hillside coming down on her, it sounded like she was maybe overreacting, but I think if you were here in 95, you would see it differently. This hill serves a purpose other than chopping it up with residential development. Now, as a county and as a community, and as do we want to put new neighbors in a drainage area, in a mudslide area, in an area prone to have trees crashing over it with heavy wind or rain? Do we as Madison County want to be responsible for putting people's lives at risk by sanctioning home sites on these critically steep slopes? The only responsible and defendable answer is no. By approving this subdivision application, does the county want to be responsible for diverting and controlling drainage coming down onto this site so as not to compromise the safety of the people dwelling on the proposed land? What relief are the buyers of these building lots going to expect from the county and possibly VDOT in diverting the stormwater washing out their new home sites? And what recourse are they going to have when there's no practical way to control the millions of gallons cascading down these hillsides onto their county-approved building lots? The code is very clear that it's the applicant proposing the building lots that needs to be held accountable for assessing, addressing, and avoiding the issues created by their subdivision plan. Please enforce the safeguards provided in the code outlined in Article 16 of the zoning ordinance. Please request from the applicant all information necessary to address the environmental concerns and critical slope issues that will be encountered in developing these parcels. Please hold the applicant accountable for the problems his subdivision creates now and in the future. Article 16.1 in the zoning ordinance states, it's the intent of the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission to encourage the development of Madison County in an environmentally sound manner. To this end, development proposals should be evaluated for their impact on the land, people, and services of the county. All developers must expect to present to the Planning Committee and the Board of Supervisors an objective evaluation of the impact of the proposed development. Article 16.2, all developers may be required to finance and assist in an impact study of the proposed development. This impact study is to supplement any information submitted with any preliminary plats. The impact study must include the environmental impact of the development, including its effect on historic property and agricultural land. I'm not telling you anything new. I am just putting it together, as this is what anybody that sees the site goes, this is the most inappropriate place to put a house. If the applicant wants to put a house there and put his family out there in harm's way, I don't have problems with that. But subdividing it and catching unsuspecting buyers with the feasibility nightmare of trying to work out how to build on this, plus them not really knowing that the environment they're living in, that, I mean, on my way in, at Mike Coates' field, a big old tree up there on the hill was laying over, that blew over last night. I mean, it just happens on a regular basis when you live up in the mountains. But I had to laugh going in because I was thinking, it doesn't just happen, you know. Anyway, the implications of slope. I really could use a drink, that's why I'm kind of talking funny, but the implications of slope are bigger than whether the parcel is zoned A1 or C1. It's faulted logic and not supported by the code that just because the parcel is in A1, that it is suitable for every use permitted by right. Otherwise, you could put 7 schools or 7 churches on this hillside, or 7 houses. Or that by right, it can be subdivided for residential purposes. Article 2.1 of the zoning ordinance, no land shall be used in any manner contrary to any other requirements specified in this ordinance. Article 2.3 of the zoning ordinance, the regulations listed in this ordinance are subject to the provisions of other sections of this ordinance. Article 1 of the zoning ordinance, the governing body of any county may determine, regulate, restrict, permit, and prohibit buildings in the use of the land. For the overwhelming reasons presented and voiced by those affected most by this insufficiently developed subdivision plan, please deny it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Probably heard enough from me for a while. Sit down.
Other public comment? Anyone else? All right, back to the board. Comments, thoughts, what would you all like to do here?
Mr. Chairman, I would like for Mr. Kelly to approach the podium again. I've got a question. Got a couple. Mr. Kelly, I was looking at the OSE reports. Lot A is 28% slope, Lot B 29%, Lot C 26%, and the residue is 26%. That is some incredible slopes, and as Mr. McCullough said, and I said during the joint meeting, this is quite an inappropriate place to put some lots. So my question to you is, sir, reflecting on the issues that you've heard regarding this property, the challenges that a subsequent buyer will face in order to develop this property, and the neighbors' concerns, would you consider withdrawing this application and instead build a home up there for you and your family and become a neighbor in the Etlin, in the village of Etlin? I want to know if you would consider that.
Well, I do plan on being a neighbor in the village of Etlin, but I don't want to withdraw my application. I just don't see it as an either or.
Do
I
you-
did a lot of, sorry.
Do you realize how much more valuable I assume you would build you'd build your own property, your own place on 12 acres. How much more valuable your place would be without 3 more lots between you and the intersection of Etlin Road and Leathers Road? People in this county, people that come to this county, people that already live in this county want space. And if you built your own home and then later on you will advertise it's like, I have got this home on 21 acres, it'll be a whole lot more valuable than I've got this home that's got 3 other houses, right outside my window. You know what I'm saying? I mean, really and truly.
I guess I'd reply by saying that I wouldn't feel encroached upon with a house on a 12-acre property. I spent quite a bit of time researching this property. Actually looking at the Army Corps of Engineers survey, some of which Mr. McCullough had referenced, and then invested in a surveyor to do everything properly and transparently with the county, and invested with a soils engineer. I'm not a soils engineer, but invested with the soils engineer to do everything transparently and openly with the county. I had everything reviewed by VDOT. I had the paperwork reviewed by the Department of Health. I spoke with Mr. Sexton, who said that the permit, it's not required right now. He doesn't know what he'd give a permit for. It was his words, not me, and I don't want to bore you by saying something that I said before, but I think it's important. I mean, another expense is about pulling power. I'm lucky that I've got power on my property, so I've had to plan with Rick about moving it to the other side, and I reached out to Mr. McCullough about, because he's got transformers just across the street, would have been a lot less expensive and a lot easier, and he said no, and I know I'm saying the same thing I said before, but he said no, and that's okay, because that's his right. And I just, I'm trying to, I followed all the rules, I got everything done. We can go to many different properties and find inappropriate locations where to build. We can go to a lot of different properties. But you could go to a lot of other properties, a lot of the same properties, including mine, and find them where it is appropriate and okay. That doesn't negate the need for the permits, doesn't negate the need for following all the rules and protocols of Madison County, which I have done and would intend to do in the future. That's what my goal is. That's how I'm creating the opportunity to be able to have that space in Etlin.
So you did not buy this property sight unseen? Did you buy this property sight unseen?
Sorry, not seen, no, I had driven past, my family's been spending time, out in these parts for
Yeah.
quite a while.
Mr. Kelly, I just cannot believe that you would drive past where you turn into Ducard and headed to Syria and look to your left and say, geez, this would be a great place to put 4 homes. I just don't get it.
It's about the locations, really. I mean, right across from, the Ducard entrance is a beautiful, gigantic, piece of granite.
Right.
Which is a wholeheartedly inappropriate place where to build in. But like I said, I think we could go to a lot of different properties and find places on that land where it would not be appropriate to build. Perhaps some of my neighbors have acreage where if you go to particular parts of that acreage, you shouldn't build there.
Exactly.
But that doesn't preclude there being places that are in line with VDOT rules, in line with the Department of Health rules, in line with Madison County rules, and in line with all the different rules that are required and have been followed.
Well, the health department, I think, when they rule on stuff as I see it, that is a final word. VDOT is more of a recommendation, is it not? For the most part. And I disagree with VDOT wholeheartedly on this. I disagree with this whole thing, but my daddy always told me, you never know the answer to the question unless they ask the question. So I just wanted to see if you would be willing to withdraw this. That's all I got.
All right. Other comments? I received, I don't have anything for you, Mr. Kelly. I do see this is personal property rights. Like Mr. Kelly has stated and has done, he's gone down every list that we have, our checklist. Everything has been checked off on. I think everybody agrees that this is probably not the best place to do it. Spoke to Mr. DiNapoli earlier today, and his comment was, well, you really should go down the path on the cost to develop this land with somebody building on it, and they should understand the cost. I'm sorry, it's not the government's role to be discussing our private funds on private land about cost. It's something the government doesn't need to be involved in. We have E&S plans, we have a health department and OSE reports. VDOT's, like Mr. Yalla stated, the VDOT has given its nod, I guess, is the best way to say it. That's about all they can do. This is personal property rights. This is a tract of land that can be subdivided by right. Is it optimal? No. There are places all over Madison County built on the top of mountains, on the side of mountains. Is it optimal in any way? Is there erosion issues that have to be addressed? Yes, it does. We're in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We have some of the most stringent rules on erosion in the nation. They are setting rules across the nation based on the Chesapeake Bay watershed and the TMDL reduction. We all are aware of public safety. It is paramount. I just don't think that we have any play here denying a subdivision on something on a tract of land that has all the boxes checked. We all can disagree with the appropriateness of it, but in the grand scheme of things, he has gone down and done all the legwork to get there. It's just kind of what it is. Anybody else have anything? What would we like to do? Y'all mind? Mr. Kelly, if you would, Mr. McCool, please.
I don't need to respond to a couple things Mr. Kelly said. One was the part about transparency, which I think is really important. The second thing, this is the second time we brought up about the power. Mr. Kelly didn't contact me. Steve Coates at the power company contacted me and asked me about it. I told him it would be better to have the power on that side running underground than to be stringing power lines across for 6 or 7 lots. And Steve understood, and then a month later or so, I don't know, a few weeks, whatever, I did receive a letter from Mr. Kelly telling me about his dog and how great they are, and wanting to talk about the power. And the power was a done issue, so we never talked. I just wanted to put that to rest so it doesn't come again. But I keep hearing the boxes are checked, and I can't help but ask, has the developer ever presented to the board or the planning commission, to the county, an objective evaluation of the impact of this proposed development, which is critical? Has he done this? And so the boxes are not checked. Can he do this? Can you have him do this, please? It's important. Because he has, in the last year, presented a very powerful and persuasive impact statement that is better that he gives to you, that would make a better argument than I can make to you on why this shouldn't be done. It's perplexing, but Mr. Kelly understands it fully. So please request this from him, and the sake of transparency, which he brought up. He's talking about transparency. Let's be transparent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick.
Please.
So I think the issue here, this is not a development yet. This is simply a subdivision. So to take that leap, I mean, that's going to be the natural progression, understood, but the issue before us is not development.
That's correct. I mean, if we go down the path of considering by right subdivisions on contiguous tracts within the 4 and 10, and within the acreage that are solely subdivisions of land, then we're going to have to require this for every person that comes in here. Every person. That includes, I mean, Mr. McCool has talked about environmental impact. I think that's one. Ask those people, every person that comes in, we're going to have to get them to do this as well. If that's the line in the sand that we're going to draw, and I do think that we cannot implement it at this point. I mean, we're asking the Planning Commission to look at the 25-degree slopes and potential remedies to something that is obviously in front of us. There's going to be a lot of citizens that have major issues with this. But if that's the way the board wants to go, then we certainly can. But we have to be able to require everybody to do it uniformly. Or we do classifications on specific topography that would warrant such a thing. Where at this point, we don't have a mechanism to do that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and not to beat this to death, but the fact is that we have the current law. If it's complied with, all right, end of discussion. Now, if we need to look and revisit our zoning ordinances.
Yes, sir.
But even if we do, we can't apply it to this. It's ex post facto. You can't do that. But if it complies, then I don't see how you legally can reject it.
Agreed.
That's my opinion. And, you know, if somebody's crazy enough to build a house up there, let them spend the money.
Absolutely.
We'll take their money, or somebody will. But, you know, here's the other thing. Based on what the board's experience with the Leathers Lane area, if I could turn back time, there wouldn't be a single house up there.
Correct.
They're all built on the side of the hill. There's constant conflict over that road. So we can't give an opinion. This is not an opinion. We have to comply with what the law tells us to do, whether we like it or not. That's my 2 cents.
Agreed. Please.
Just a clarification. So when somebody wants to build up there, they have to get the permit for soil erosion before they build?
It's part of,
One of the things.
yes, one component of.
And so,
If they disturb more than 10,000, or no, it's all, they always have to have some type of
Drain
plan,
field's
yeah.
10,000 square feet.
Please, Tracy, thank you. They always have to, yeah,
Yes, that is correct.
yeah,
I mean, the drain field alone is 10,000.
there you go,
The permit, erosion sediment permit is going to be.
that's right.
so the permit doesn't, it can be approved or disapproved, like, so say, your people go up there, take a look at it and say, there's no way that the soil erosion, this side of the hill is gonna hold, we're gonna deny the permit. Can that happen, or do they just have to file a permit and they go forward with it?
There are inspections that go with this
There are
too.
inspections,
Yeah.
and, I mean, there are measures that they have to put in place, for example. So fencing has to be installed, to prevent runoff onto the road, onto the property owners. All of that has to be complied with. Inspections are done every 2 weeks.
I understand that, but after everything's done, the house is built, the permit's expired, what keeps, we know at that point that that land can hold? I mean, that things are put in place for that, or not? I mean, I know that temporarily putting silt fences up, and that stops things from going over the side of the bank. But,
And I think that's part of the plan review, should it go beyond, to, what is it, Culpeper Soil and Water District? I think that's what it's called.
Yes, we've sent, just because it's maybe a qualifier for in lieu of, if there are concerns, we send that off to Culpeper Water and Soil Conservation District. There's one particular single-family residence I can think of that went through that criteria, and they actually hired an engineer to help them with their erosion on a very, very rocky lot. That plan that was therefore submitted by a PE, professional engineer, was adhered to. And actually, in one situation, I think notice was given to the individual when they were not following that, and that was mitigated with another follow-up from an engineer, which later resulted to a final occupancy release. But even though it's a single-family home, depending on circumstance, that can be given to Culpeper Soil and Water Conservation District.
You guys know when Gentry Drive was put in out by Food Line, right? I don't know how many iterations didn't see from DEQ on stormwater management plan and erosion. Oh my, it took 6-8 months for that to get through. Huh?
Every bill.
Yeah.
Every bill. There's another one right now that's going through, I guess it is, it's the, Powell Abandoned site, he's still waiting, and we did an approval based on, obtaining, ENS from, DEQ based on the level of disturbance.
For the site plan.
And then, in turn, if there are complaints, what is the mechanism off of complaints of erosion problems? Anybody.
So, again, Joe already goes out to the site every 2 weeks.
That's right.
I think there's requirements, hopefully I'm not quoting this wrong, he'll correct me if I am, but I think there's requirements after heavy downfalls, for example, after so many days after a heavy downfall, he has to go out. I mean, we're going to check it out, and knowing, frankly, the where this is at and what the site looks like, I mean.
Yeah. We know it's problematic, it's going to be checked,
Right.
please.
And then there are also private nuisance options for adjoining landowners.
There you go.
You know, I hate to say this, because I don't like saying this, but when it comes to erosion, sediment, stormwater, and floodplain, anything is buildable, as long as you have this. And that's the reality of it.
Agreed. All right, other comments on this? What are we gonna do, folks?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number S-03-24-20.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all, am I cutting you off? I don't want
No, you're
to.
not cutting
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank y'all. All right, new business. We have we have Resolution 2024-7, which is Schedule of Fees for EMS Vehicle Transport Services. Mr. Weekly?
Yes, and I may ask Chief Hillstrom to come to the podium, please. Just a little background on this, and also thank you to Ms. Warren as well. In 2010, the Board of Supervisors at that time, via resolution, created what a lot of people called or referred to as soft billing. It's for ambulance service. As you can see on the screen there, there's various levels of basic life support, or excuse me, there is a level of basic life support. There's a couple of levels of advanced life support services. There are other counties in Virginia, it's not just Madison County, that participate in this soft billing. But this is the means via resolution of how you set your fees, which was done initially in 2010, and if you wish to adjust fees. Mr. Hillstrom, our Chief Hillstrom, did a very good job of getting information from the localities, comparing to where we're at. After he speaks, I do want to take the opportunity, he can explain soft billing, but also Kim will walk you through, as well as the citizens who are here today or online, of how you get to this frequently asked question about soft billing. It's on our website, so folks know, do I pay this bill or not, or what that means. Chief, would you like to walk us through the fee schedule, please, sir?
Excuse me, yes, sir. The first thing I'll talk on is your tax dollars are considered your copay. So as a county resident, there's no excess bill off of that. So the language under resident, non-resident billing is verbatim from what's on the website under FAQs and the resolution from 2010. So county residents will be billed only to the extent of his or her Medicare, Medicaid, or other health insurance coverage. Any remaining cost-sharing amounts, as in co-payments, deductibles, will be waived for county residents. If you're a county resident who is not covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or any other health insurance coverage, charges for EMS services will be waived. And the point of that is we care about your health. We don't want finances to impede you following on. There is language, if you're a non-resident, then your insurance company will be billed, and you will be subsequently will receive a bill for applicable cost-sharing amounts remaining after insurance claims have been processed. And then any non-resident who is without any form of insurance coverage will be billed for the entire amount of the EMS services delivered. If a patient receives a bill and they're unable to pay, then they may apply for a financial hardship waiver, which is will be approved if an applicant demonstrates that his or her household income based on the applicable family size is at or below 300% of the current federal poverty guidelines. So the chart here, the fee for services, I called around, most of the information there is from other locality websites. And we've not adjusted charges since the implementation of this in 2010. The key thing to remember is Medicare and Medicaid, they have their set billing fees. So what this will do, if you choose to increase, it will only affect private insurance. So the calculations below, again, came from our billing vendor. You can see the impact if you were to choose to raise the charges, which would be roughly a $54,000 projection of additional income. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Hillstrom? Keep going, Noah.
I think that's all I have to share on that.
All right.
If we may, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Ms. Turner, can you do the quick review of the website? So everyone can see where that goes. We encourage anybody, anytime you receive a bill, you should always question it. There's always fraudulent or scam activities people are trying to do. It's going to mention the company. I believe there's a place out of Kentucky where it's actually got that, but it's in reference to services of Madison County EMS. So you may have went through that while I wasn't looking. So if you go to our homepage, okay, and go under departments, it's all about 3 clicks to get to where you want to be. So go under departments, emergency medical services. To the left is ambulance billing. That is your 3rd click, and that takes you to the ambulance soft billing. Most importantly, if you see there at the bottom, it says, their mailings will come addressed from the Madison County Board of Supervisors. However, the city will be, I don't know if that's pronounced Paducah, I'm sorry, Kentucky. The AMB is located in Paducah, Kentucky. And if you have any questions, you can always reach the chief or the assistant chief, whoever's available at the officer level at that number listed. So again, always question. We understand that. You get various things in the mail. But that is, if you have questions or constituents have questions, please point them to the website, or they can reach out to Chief Hillstrom, who can explain that to them.
And a lot of times with the bill, they're gonna ask for your insurance information, and that's so they can charge insurance. But again, county resident don't pay.
All right, I'm gonna hit Jonathan and Hannon with one that I should have got on there earlier. Why do we not have to do a public hearing for this?
So our administrative fees, so that's what we charge directly to the taxpayer, whether it's a dog license or electrical permit. Those are part of your scheduled fees as public hearing. This is a soft billing that goes to an insurance company, so it's done via resolution. That is my understanding.
Does that sound accurately depicted?
I'd have to look into that one. Sorry.
God dang it. Oh, yeah, it's a bummer. We'll go with Jonathan.
Makes sense.
If it is, then we go back and it doesn't sit in effect. What would y'all, anybody have questions, comments, thoughts on this? We do have resolution 2024-7. What would y'all like to do?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt Resolution 2024-7 on the schedule of fees for EMS vehicle transport services.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, EMS ambulance purchase.
And certainly, I want to put forth, we can call the attorney when applicable. No, I may steal a little bit on this. I do want to give Chief Hillstrom credit. He's done all the thorough review, complimentary of Ms. Warren as well. The procurement mechanism we're using is HGAC. It's kind of a purchasing mechanism like GSA. We are a member of HGAC. And what that allows, any cooperative procurements that are within their listing, we are able to use if the contract documents specify that Virginia is a participant. We have found that the HGAC contract document, I don't know if you have it before you or not, to go to the, thank you, yes, that one. The specified proposal is based on purchasing this unit with HGAC AM 10-23. That is the actual contract number. You can look up on the HGAC website and see that contract is in effect. The contract does allow services and products to be acquired in the state of Virginia amongst, I think there's like 9 or 10 other states. The contract term is good through November of 2027. The $1,000 fee, you see, I actually spoke to Mr. Strong from, I think it's Atlantic Emergency Solutions today. What is that? And it's basically their processing fees. So you think of if you go to a dealership, now I think they've got this $800 or $1,000 add-on. Other types of vehicles is higher, but under the contract, the ambulance our contract fee is $1,000. I think there are other larger vehicles that are $2,000. So upon my review, it appears to meet all procurement thresholds in that proposal. And this is an order, by the way. You do not pay until you take on inventory. This is just like the last ambulance order that you did last year. We don't anticipate anywhere between 28 to 32 months. I do want to recognize Chief Hillstrom has in his report that we could take it in 24 months. In talking to Atlantic today, they're hiring an additional fabrication team and an additional painting team. It could speed up the process. They're not saying they're going to get us an ambulance in 12 months. So I do think it's safe to say 2 years up to 32 months is when we receive this. That is the main reasoning of bringing this purchase to you all here tonight, or this order of an ambulance, is the aging of our fleet, also in conflicting, or I should say, into relation of when we receive that. So I think Chief Hillstrom, in his last report he gave at the beginning of the month, it showed you mileage and anticipation of when ambulances would come in versus when they're due to cycle out. Hannon, do you have anything, sir, on this?
Only that this would be cooperative procurement, we're doing it.
Your mic on.
So this would be
Thank you.
a cooperative procurement, which is allowable not just with other counties or with the federal government, but even with other states if we want to. And that's under Virginia Code 2.24304.
Thank you. All right. Anybody have questions on this? Comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have one
Please.
for Mr. Weekly and Ms. Warren. Now, this particular item, has that been worked into the long-term CAP, or is this something we'd have to amend?
In the capital budget, the 5-year outlook, we do have this in there. The one for fiscal year '25 is the original order that we placed. And this second ambulance order would be in the out years, so we did put it in there.
Thank you for the reminder.
Noah, you have anything to add? I apologize. All right.
I just do, one thing, Mr. Chairman, I think it's relevant to this. I also spoke with Atlantic today, just to get the feel what other localities are doing. And it may not always be apple to apples when you're looking at public safety vehicles and how they use them. I know, for example, with sheriff department, sometimes we'll do like 2 or 3 new and 1 used or something like that. That's usually based on whether it's going to a patrol deputy or a court security deputy. I did speak to him about the application and what other localities he's seeing of refurbishing. It seems to be a very rigorous process that involves passing some type of state certification. They had indicated that alone is about $60,000. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying not do it. It's something we're going to explore because these assets are needed. I stand behind that as a citizen, let alone the county administrator, but these assets are also approaching $500,000 with maybe 5 to 7 year life cycle. So we're going to explore that. I'm always going to ask the head of agency, in this case Chief Hillstrom, to give some thought on that. I do think it warrants future exploration and understanding what that refurbishing looks like.
Absolutely. All right, I can't believe we, $478,000 for one of these things. I mean, that's just incredible, and I'm sure they get only more expensive, but that is just absolutely incredible. What would y'all like to do here?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the proposal for, with HGAC for $478,050 for ambulance.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Noah and Jonathan. Yes, sir.
Did you want me to talk on the Medicare order?
Yeah, go ahead. Talk about it. Let's go.
So, in your packet is a detailed explanation. I'll give you the cliff notes. Multiple agencies have been selected that bill Medicare, Medicaid to report. I started the application to prove my identity. It asks for my social security number. I've reached out to Mr. Weekly. Long story short, there's no way around that. The guidance I'm getting is because I'm not covered if there's a data breach, is not to do it. The penalty for that is 10% from Medicare, Medicaid monies that come in. And I'm very open to ideas, but I think we can all agree that if you're not covered with a data breach and your social security number, it's a red flag.
So your report said something about you thought an EIN number would work, and,
Attempted that, yep.
but you haven't gotten a hold of the right person, or that is absolutely a no-go?
It's a no-go.
That makes
Touched
sense.
base
This
with
is-
Spanberger's office.
Yeah.
That's noted in the details there. We've not heard back. And, according to CMS, you have to put in your number.
All right. Han, you been down this path yet? I mean, this would seem like it would be one of those places to use your, see what other localities are doing on this, because this cannot be just a Madison County deal.
Sure, I can look into this one.
All right, you get back to us in a couple weeks? Does that work with your timeline, Noah? Let's go down that path. This can't be just our problem. Anybody got anything on this for Noah? All right, thank you, Noah. All right, we've got the Graves Mountain Lodge, Festival of Music. It's a large-scale outdoor event. Looks like everybody's checked off on it. Mr. Weekly, what do you have to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Clatterbuck. She took the helm of circulating this. So as you stated, Mr. Chairman, all first response have looked at this and have no issues. This event is slated to kick off May 30th, so that is starting this week.
All right, questions, comments, thoughts on this one? What do y'all want to do?
Or move to approve the Graves Mountain Lodge Festival of Music event application.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ms. Turner, tell us about a handful of committees.
Alrighty, so we have 3 that I want to make you aware of. Sarah Berry was the Madison County representative on the Germanna Community College Board. Her term will expire at the end of June. This is her second term, so she's not eligible, even though she would like to be reappointed. So I would ask the board if you would like us to advertise, and if so, those methods. The other one is Scott Bennett. He currently serves on Social Services Board as the chairman. He has been fully endorsed by staff to reappoint him, and he is willing. And then I also just want to make you aware of the CPMT, which is Community Policy Management Team, and FAPT, Family Assessment and Planning Team. Those are roles that CSA, Tiffany Woodward, will let us know who's going to be filling those roles at the end of June. Most of that is people who have those positions, so I don't look to see a lot of changes, and I will let you know once I've heard back from her what those are. I know we're a little far out to have answers for that, but just wanted to let you know, those are all of the changes that will expire at the end of June.
All right. Germanna, y'all want to advertise for Germanna? Jim, you don't want to sit on this board?
I do and I don't.
Well, so you want to advertise?
Yeah, I think.
No, I agree with you.
Can't find somebody, I might. I'd just be in an argument all the time. Because I know the system.
Well put together points. Everybody good on advertising? You want to advertise on the website? Where else do we need to advertise?
Do you want to advertise in the newspaper?
How much does that cost?
A lot. Sorry.
How does nobody know? Gracie doesn't know. We've all concluded this. How much?
She's not in charge.
No, we know. We're not. We've been over this way too many times, and Gracie has no idea. Apparently, nobody else does either. It costs a couple $100 to advertise. Are we getting a lot of solicitations from people reading the newspaper and submitting their applications?
No, I'm trying to think of the last time we ran one in the paper, like especially with DS. Sorry, I have my mic on. There's not a lot that we've advertised lately, like especially with DSS has been good of kind of recruiting, if you will.
Yeah.
But I do think it's worth the effort at least to run it once
All right.
and see what you get.
Everybody fine with that? Let's put it on the website and run it once. Everybody good? I'm sure we'll get waves of people. What about reaching out to Miss Berry and see if she has any recommendations or
Yeah,
some of her
overall,
scholastic
a lot of
friends?
times, people who had the role before helped fill the second
That-
person.
that would be
I would
helpful.
try
That
Should be a requirement. Really try to recruit from the high school too. The
Okay.
faculty your staff there, because there's a natural linkage
Oh, yeah.
between those.
I'll see if Anna Graham wants to do something. I'll talk to her. Maybe she can get it. That's a good suggestion. All right, what about Mr. Bennett on social services? Judge says he's amazing. What would y'all, anybody want to advertise, bring in new people? We seem to be very good at that. What would y'all like
I
to do?
move to reappoint Scott Bennett to the Social Services Board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And we'll wait on CPMT and FAP.
Sounds good, thank you.
Very good. All right, citizen speed study on Beautiful Run Road. Mr.
Thank you.
Weekly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you may know, citizens bring a speed request. Normally, I pass it along for the board. VDOT doesn't take any action unless I run it by the board and you direct me to make that request. I will say over the last year, normally the VDOT will ask, has there been any attempt by law enforcement to do speed enforcement or any of their feedback? I've talked to Sheriff Weaver in the past about this, not recent about this request here, to be fair and transparent. But it's all about our resources, what are limited and what we have available. So I don't want to make that request for every time we have a speed request of the sheriff. I normally go out and drive these roads, or someone from staff. This particular one I did. I met with a resident. They had various concerns, including they live right beside Good Hope Church, and they had a lot of concerns about school and encroachment of trees and also speed. The speed limit on that section from 230 Orange Road back to the intersection of Beautiful Run Road and Good Hope Church is 45 miles per hour. There are some curves with suggested or recommended speeds at 35. So we can make the speed request. The last time there was a speed request for Beautiful Run Road, it was on the opposite end, probably about 6 residents down from the intersection of 231, the Turnpike, South Blue Ridge Turnpike. And at that time, there was no speed study done. They did a safety review, and they found one of the chevrons on the curve was down. They reinstalled it. I'm not saying that they won't do one. However, I informed Ms. Poticha that I would bring this request to the board and seek their input.
All right. Y'all want to get a speed study on Beautiful Run Road? I don't know. I pass the sheriff on this road pretty often. He goes over into the ditch normally. I don't know what that says.
Is that concern of the driver?
Yeah, it's definitely driver issues.
There's another solution. Just let the condition of the road deteriorate to the level of Route 230. That will slow them down some.
Correct. No, I mean,
Definitely
it's,
slowing me down.
yeah, I was riding down it the other day and I was looking down at the speed limit at 45. And you're humming along on Beautiful Run at 45. I mean, right before you get up there to the church, you've got a little bit of gravity working in your favor. But other than there, you're not really, and even me, and
There's a lot of tight areas and
stuff.
curves that
Yeah.
would naturally slow you down before you get to this resident. But again, it's at your recommendation or direction you want to give me, and I'll follow up with the resident.
All right, anybody have any other comments on this? Everybody good with doing a speed study?
Yeah.
Let's do a speed study. And then you also are, off of the man's comments at the last meeting, you talked to him about some type of safety on Ellie Road, I understand?
We have reached out to VDOT on that one as well, so.
Is that a speed study, or do we need to go down that path now?
We're trying to get a speed study on that one. It wouldn't hurt to. if
You need a
you'd like to
request,
that.
everybody want to do one on Ellie as well with the man that presented it the last time?
Yeah, Mr. Hawkins.
Mr. Hawkins, yes.
I didn't find any prior, and I'm not saying that someone didn't raise a concern, I just didn't find.
I don't
We did
remember
follow
that
up
one. I
with
apologize.
VDOT, and we will add that to the speed request.
All right, everybody good with both of those? All right, yeah. Hoover Ridge Park Outdoor Rec Center renovation bid update. Mr. Weekly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had our bid opening last week. The invitation for bid, this is for the Hoover Ridge Outdoor Recreation Center Phase 1 project. The invitation for bid went out in April of 2024. It was roughly a 30-day period. and the bids were due by 2 PM on May 23rd. There was a non-mandatory pre-bid. That means it's not mandatory to be there, but it's encouraged, so you know the project or so forth. I think there was 3 or 4 people present for that. We only received 2 bids. Both of the companies that submitted bids were not there for the non-mandatory pre-bid. We listed in the packet the 2 companies that submitted bids and their totals. Miller Brothers Construction was the lowest at $1,760,179, followed by Bright Construction for a total of $3,925,650. We had budgeted in FY '25 at $700,000 for this capital project. And the Parks and Recreation Authority, they have pursued other funding streams, while the county has also submitted a congressional funding request towards this project. You may recall, like we applied for funding for the biodirectional amplifiers through congressional funding. We have submitted an application here. Primarily, they were considering anything ADA that you can tie to it. We initially applied for about $1.2 million. The congressional folks and Ms. Spanberger's office, who are part of that committee review, stated we need to kind of define that scope a little bit more, and that later got us down to about an $800,000 request. Even if we're successful in that, hopefully we would be, you would not know until about April of next year, similar to when the BDA funding was announced. So there is other fund avenues. I want to give a quick specification of the project. Phase 1 wasn't really an attractive, meaning as far as expectation of court play or anything like that when completed. It encompassed putting in the parking. At this time, it was bid for paving. So when you drive into the park, you go from pavement to gravel. If you follow back to the silo, that's where this project would be paved. Demo of the silo, your grading work, your utilities, and the sidewalks would stop at Phase 1, which would be just beyond the planned playground and splash pad area, if you remember from the drawings that were shared at a past board meeting. So again, a pretty hefty number. Mr. Wright has reviewed, and I have provided the board with his suggestions. Staff is recommending that the board reject both bid submissions for the Hoover Ridge Outdoor Recreation Center Phase 1 project. I encourage you to review, or you have in front of you Mr. Wright's suggestions on how to do that. It cites state code and which you may wish to reconsider. My plan of action, should you reject here tonight, is to call for a project committee meeting. And I will reach out to, if you reject tonight, I will reach out to those who submitted to notify them, as well as any questions that we may have, as well as anybody who didn't bid, to learn a little bit of, were there any missed targets? Was there any clarifying needed of the project? Overall, staff is not recommending you move forward with the bids you have. We recommend denial, or rejecting is the proper term, and then let staff come back to you for a future recommendation. Hannon, anything, sir, I missed?
Questions, comments, thoughts? I think we should go with the action first, and then I've got some comments. What do y'all want to do on the accepting or rejecting?
Mr. Chairman, I move, or while we appreciate the bidders and that they submitted, the bids they submitted, however, the county has, I request that the county rejects the bids in pursuant to Code Section 2.2-4319. We intend to potentially clarify and rescope the requirements of the advertisement.
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chairman?
Please, yes, sir,
Sorry.
by all means.
Just, as a staff, we'll have an obligation to make that part of our contract file to explain that we've rejected all the bids.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It appears to me that we know that time the time that you submit these bids seasonally affects the way that contractors bid on stuff. It looks like that we, put this out at the wrong time when these people had a full plate of business. Also, we've missed our projections fairly substantially on and going to Mr. White and what he has put together for us. I think that the building committee needs to look at this pretty heavily and kind of reanalyze. One of the items that that I was looking at, and I've talked to Mr. Carpenter about, and Jonathan and I have had discussions about. I think we need to really reevaluate paving and when the splash pad, because apparently the splash pad has some play in with dust and some of the equipment. We know that phase one was not the glamorous side of this whole thing. I think that we should try to figure out where our funding is at, and that is actual funding, and that's not just from this board, but from what Parks and Rec and all their subsidiaries have raised. Try to put as big of a package together as possible to make it attractive. Also, on the paving side, I think that we've got to do the site work, and the gravel will go down. I would put that at the end of the list. It seems like it's just not advantageous for us. We do very, very poorly with paving. We know we have some time constraints pertaining to like hockey, which when I heard about the bids, the comment was, you got to tell hockey that they're not going to have a rink this upcoming year at Hoover Ridge. I just don't think that's a realistic depiction to paint. We need to kind of clarify this and get all our ducks in a row is what it looks like to me. We have this one bid for 3.925 or whatever. Was that them bidding on the full thing?
It did not state, but
Yeah.
that is my,
That's a
well, you know what
problem.
assumptions make, but
Yeah.
that is a question I'm going to ask. I
Very much.
did not want to contact while we were still under active
Yes, sir.
bid submission consideration, but that's a question I'm going to ask because that stands out. There were some exclusions, like rock and stuff like that for Miller Brothers. So clearly, we want to ask some questions, and also have the project committee. The plan wouldn't be to rush back out to a bid per se. Definitely, we want to come back with, here's what the committee thinks. What do you think as the board? And if you feel comfortable or have any added or clarity or scope of work and are ready then to put that revised scope work back out, that's when we'll take action. To your point, Mr. Chairman, we certainly can look at if the phasing changes. Right now, we were moving from front to back. If the splash pad is going to be a later element, certainly, maybe there are options to hold on the paving. You can start it back. Maybe you do one of your walkways that serves hockey in the back, and you work your way forward. It all depends on the amount of the project you want to put out. If we're looking to stay within or very close to our FY '25 budgeted number, I'm not sure when pledged donations may come in. I certainly can speak for the congressional funding, as I mentioned, if it were awarded, would be spring. That's not something you could put back in your coffers. They're looking at, you haven't built the AD compliance stuff yet. And by the way, here's the money for that if you were awarded, not if you do those sections of the project. And the committee will look at that. Brian and Lindsay did a very good job of skimming through and trying to put forth that part of the project. We certainly don't want to succumb ourselves of not getting federal funding. But again, to your point, Mr. Chairman, I think some regrouping. I have spoken to Ms. Artali today, who will be communicating with hockey. I had met with he and Mr. Chu earlier on when we got notified by the capitals of some funding. I think that was $30,000 that hockey do not anticipate. Even if you greenlighted a project today, if numbers were favorable than what they are before you, we wouldn't hit that timeline. So we will continue to communicate with them. He has been a good committee member of the project to give them some insight, but we will regroup. There's no doubt about it for this project.
Anybody else have comments on this one?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple of questions. These two bids that were submitted by these contractors, are these local, regional contractors?
Neither, so Miller Brothers is out of Marshall, and Bright Construction I haven't heard of. They're out of Fairfax. We did have a local contractor, an excavator who I did not know existed, a Mr. William Wall I think he lives in Banco or some area, northern part of the county. What I think I can openly share, because they said right before the bid opening, is trying to find an excavator. You know, site work is one thing, then you put a building component in, even the restroom concessionaire. I know it doesn't sound like much, but that takes a different type of contractor and bonding. So it seemed like some of the contractors were either trying to pair up and were unsuccessful. The engineer did state that if the county were to decide to go back in, do at least a 45-day minimum bid or a 45-day bid period. And then, unlike where we put the specifications and plans out on the EVA website as well as the county, to have it where they would have to solicit the engineer for that. So he would be aware of who actually is looking at this project and is needing information. So we need to know if we need to kind of shake the tree a little bit and get folks out. We personally solicited local folks. I think there was at least 3 or 4 General A contractors we reached out to make them aware of it. Our procurement actually encourages us to do that. It's unfortunate nobody local submitted a bid, but we did reach out and encourage folks.
Well, I agree with the chairman that, you know, this is a time to regroup and reassess and probably reprioritize. But I would hope that we can move forward some, even if it's baby steps, even if it's a slower pace, because things are only going to get more expensive. And we need to show that we are committed to making something happen, and I think we can do something. But, you know, that's the problem, like this ambulance. And it just keeps getting worse. When you think it can't get worse, it gets worse. So everything's costing more, and it's just going to be a challenge. But I think we'll be all right.
I appreciate Supervisor Jewett's comment, and just for perspective of that, and this is why I think the 3.9 number is probably they bid the whole project. The PER, which is a little over a year old.
Oh, you know.
Well, in the preliminary engineering report, a little over a year ago, the project was estimated around 3.3 million. So if that bid is actually the total project, you can see, to your point, the increase in the cost from the PER a little over a year removed.
Regrouping is not the worst. It's unfortunate, but it may set this, I'd rather regroup now and set this project up for success than make poor decisions at such an initial stage. The commitment by the county of $912,000, I think signifies that we are behind this project. I find it amazing it hadn't gotten more scrutiny, but it just shows the community supports this type of thing. We've put out a lot. Let's do our due diligence. I mean, we went through and we got the bids back for the EMS renovation. I think all of us were worried that those were going to be way more than what they were. Hopefully that's as quality of a project. I think we've got a handful of different options that we now can play a different grouping of cards that may make it more attractive to potential contractors.
You know,
Please.
I've lived long enough to know that the boom isn't going to last forever.
Yes, sir.
So you said it was an optional pre-bid meetings and only 2 people.
We had about
The two
4
bidders
that
didn't
showed up at the non-mandatory pre-bid.
Right.
And that seems to be the thing, they're non-mandatory. But folks are encouraged, we have a sign-up, if you want to show that real quick. We have a sign-up for folks to register on our website, so when RFPs or IFBs go live, it comes directly to you as a contractor. EVA, which is through the Department of General Services, which is the state of Virginia, they have a website called EVA that also you can register. So anytime bids are put out there, that's how folks are informed.
But we can't make it mandatory, and it seems like there's some stuff lost in translation when the people that were there didn't even submit the bid, and 2 people that didn't go submitted bids.
Yeah,
So-
we can look at mandatory. The problem with that, so for example, we had one local contractor that could not make the non-mandatory meeting. And they wind up, I think it was like that following Monday or Tuesday, they wanted to meet on the site, and we did that with them. And of course, we always say if any questions need to be asked, submit them to the engineer of record, because those questions are posed and answered via addendum, so everybody can see that online. But if you make a mandatory, let's say a local contractor or whatever is unable to make it, then they could be excluded from the bid submission process. That's the only downside of that.
What else?
Can you go from like beginning? Sorry, I was talking again. Kim, you can hit me with that hickory stick. All right, so go to our website. From there, you can go government, and to your right, RFP and bids. So that's request for proposals or invitation for bids. There's a sign up right up there. Sign up to receive a text message or email when new bids are added. So let the information go for you. It's the reason why you all allowed in your budget process for this website upgrade is to be able to make it easy for folks to navigate as well as sign up to get the information that you want.
All right. Other comments, thoughts on this one? All right, very good. Finance dashboard, Ms. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to just quickly go over the dashboard that we have built, or I've built for giving you updates on the finances of the county. This dashboard it's a cloud-based platform called Smartsheet, and it's used for collaboration, and you can build reports and dashboards from sheets. So basically what I'm going to be doing is taking data out of our system, out of our accounting system, and it's going to export out in Excel, and I'll be able to import it into this dashboard for us. So just a quick overview, this is through period 10, April, and we're at 83.4% of our budget cycle for expenditures. I did break it down by department for you. If you hover over the pie chart or any of the charts, it will actually give you figures for like the available budget versus the year-to-date expended. I've also, on the top, put the contingency fund balances. As of the end of April, it was general ops contingency was $206,247. And as you kind of go through each of the departments, take a look at the fact that we're at 83.4%, and they should be no more than that. There are some that are slightly over, and I've done an analysis and talked to those department heads, and we've come to figure out, where they're going to land and if there was any sort of a need for contingency. And really, the only departments were EMS and emergency management, which you've looked at that supplemental appropriation for. As far as the outside agency, the joint services down here, which is at 93%, those we pay quarterly in advance. So we've paid the last quarter for most of those. Those are like the regional jail, detention center, local health department. So that one should be close to 100% since we have paid the last quarter of the year. So as you go through this dashboard, take a look and let me know. I'm going to update this monthly after we close the month. And at any of the board meetings, you're welcome to ask me questions. As I scroll down, I did want to mention a couple other things on this dashboard. There is an all expenditures year-to-date excluding transfers pie chart. This one is going to give you just basically a roll-up of all the departments and what we've expended versus the available budget. And as you can see, 82%, and we're at 83.4% of the year, so that's a good thing. And then over here, I've got budgeted transfers for all of the other, like DSS, CSA, and the schools, what we've budgeted in transfers at this point in time versus what we've had actual in transfers to those agencies, and we're at 73%. And then as you scroll down, the next section is on revenues. The revenue charts are a little bit different. I just wanted to explain them. The first one on the left, this one gives you I wanted to show the board the revenues that we're either expecting to go above or below budget that are pretty significant items. And as you can see, we've got about 14 of them. I did want to mention, for example, if you look at interest income and you hover over it, it says that we're projecting to end the year at $785,000 over in revenues for interest income. And I talked to Treasurer Ms. Murray, and her, she basically let me know that That overage is, the interest income's high because of the primary driver being local government investment pool account, which is averaging 56,000 a month for rates. So that's a significant increase there. But if you add up all of these, yes, it comes up to, I think it was a little over $1.4 million. However, you have to take into account that some of the other revenue categories are gonna be under, and it's gonna, so we can't say at this point in time, we're gonna have that much extra in revenues. I will tell you that, I've spoke to Ms. Murray about the real property tax, what we've received so far, because we just sent the bills out, and she did say we've already received about 85%, so it's pretty good.
Yeah,
So
really good.
revenues year-to-date in this pie chart, we've received 75% as of April 30th. And if you compare that to last year, this point in time last year, we were at 68%. So we're tracking higher than we were last year. The next section is the county capital. I have a section on our CARP, which is our capital asset replacement items, and then our CIP budget, which is our capital improvement items. So you can see the budget versus actual for any of those at any point in time. I won't go into these in detail except to say that they are all on track. That there's no issues there. And as you can see for ARPA fund broadband and the radio tower project, we have quite a bit of budget, and the expenses have not been as huge, but they are picking up, so. And then the next section I wanted to present was other funds. So the Madison County Schools, I was able to get, Tina and Anna provided me with the their operating update through period 10. I did put a link here that you can actually open that. It's their report. If you want to click on the PDF, it'll open that. And then I just summarized it in these pie charts for you and showing you where they're tracking as far as their expenditure breakdown for year-to-date expended versus what's available in budget for all of these expenditure items that they have broken down in their budget. So this section gives you that information, as well as an overview on their summary of their expenditures from year-to-date to available budget. If you want to look at it this way, they're at 76% expenses at the 83.4% of the year. So they are tracking under budget on their expenditures as well. And from a revenue perspective, these will give you what the county general fund so far is allocating versus what's remaining. So they're tracking well on those, and their other revenues that are not county general fund revenues. This shows you how they're tracking to receiving those revenues. Year to date, they have 2.63 million, and they have remaining to collect 3.2. So hovering over any of these pie charts gives you the actual figures. So I just wanted to point that out. And then I put together the school's capital budget for you, so you can see that in pie charts, as well as social services. They're tracking right on budget for their expenditures and their revenues. And CSA, they actually are quite a bit under on expenditures. And I met with Tiffany, and we looked at everything, and I'm projecting that they're going to have about 300 to 350,000 less in expenditures this month, or this year, this fiscal year, and I think they had that last year as well. So that gives you an idea of the breakdown of the dashboard that I'll update, and I can provide this link. I can always put it on the website for any citizen if we want. It depends on what the board would like. I can do it quarterly.
I think everybody in agreement, this is very good and helpful and useful. I do think we should put this on the website. I think all this information, this is the public's information. They should have access to all this.
Quarterly
Or how often are you updating it, Ms. Warren? You said once a month.
Well, now that I've built it, which took
Yes, ma'am.
several hours, now I can update it by just updating the numbers, taking from Excel from the one to the other, so.
Is once a month too much, Ms. Warren, or?
No, just keep in mind that we close the month around, because we have Bank of America charges, usually around the 20th.
Yes, ma'am.
I wish we could close it sooner, but probably towards the end of the month, I'd be able to update it for,
prior.
yeah, So like, right now, we're at the end of
Everybody
May,
good?
would be through June, excuse me.
It's a great tool, and I would hope that all of our department heads would use it on a regular basis to keep track of their
Great.
management policies and practices and budgeting. Better than that, it's better in real time than it is at the end of the year.
Yeah,
Surprise,
currently we
surprise.
Currently, we send the department heads just reports from the accounting system, but I'd like to also be able to share this with them so they can look here as well.
Anybody else have comments? It looks great. Cardy?
Other than, the monthly report that we get a lot of times with revenue, and there's 18 pages of it, I don't think that's, does me a whole lot of good. I might try to find something or other, but I think this would pretty much take the place of those reports.
Well, one thing I can add to this dashboard is I can add links, like if you wanted to see the full report that's coming out of the accounting system, I could link any of these pie charts. You'd click on it and it would bring up that report. So if you really wanted to drill down to the numbers by line item, I can add that as a feature to the dashboard. Just really depends on what you'd like to see.
Would you all like to do that?
I think it would be easy for me to do on the revenue side by each department. Would be harder only because I'd have to do a lot of chopping
Yeah,
up PDFs.
I think if we wanted it, we could
always
ask you
ask
for it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I recommend,
Yeah.
is let her load what we have live, and if you see anything you'd like to add
Right.
on, just make the request. But it is a fabulous tool.
It really
and
does.
the
It looks
report
great.
is one.
Anybody else have anything on this? I mean, we talk about transparency. I mean, this is about as transparent as it gets. It makes it easy, and then it makes it easy for people to FOIA us, which is what they should be doing. All right, anything else on this? Thank you, Mrs. Warren.
Absolutely, thank you.
Information and correspondence, Mr. Weekly.
Yes, sir. So just upcoming public hearings, we usually do that, so just help preparing and reminding the public of what's coming up. We have advertised the Crickersville Swinging Bridge. That is the one off of Lindsay Lane. The board is seeking public input, what you would like to see. We've had VDOT give us information. We've had a 501c3 group effort of trying to raise funds and restoring the bridge, but VDOT says they have the funding to rehabilitate the bridge. They do not wish to own it if they're going to rehabilitate. Therefore, the county wants to
Bless you.
seek public input. Does the public want to see the county own that, or they want to see them to abandon it, or what they would like to do? But the board is soliciting public input at the June 11 public hearing. The other one, and thanks to Mr. Wright for advertising, is the erosion and stormwater code amendment. You may recall that update was given to you, I believe, at your last meeting, of the code section references that had to be amended. They're combining the stormwater and erosion part, as Mr. Sexton reported last time. So this has been advertised. Mr. Wright and Mr. Sexton, our erosion and sedimentation control program administrator, I think is that lengthy title, does a very good job. They have reviewed, made the updates. I have looked at it as well. So it is advertised. It's ready for the public. So those are the two hearings that you have on the 11th. However, that's not the only upcoming hearing. VDOT had requested space. We have granted it for the public hearing that they're holding. We're just providing the facility on June 6th in this building. Can you go? Thank you. The advertisement's up for you. So between the hours of 5 and 7 p.m. Is what they have listed. This is for an upcoming bridge replacement, or a bridge design for a replacement on 749 Moon Run Road. If you go up to the Nethers area of the county, hang a left, you'll eventually get to Moon Road. It does enter Rappahannock County, crossing the Hughes River, and they are seeking comment on that. So again, that comment is for the public to provide VDOT. We will open and close the building for them. I'll most likely be here because I want to hear what public may have for them. There's an advertisement date. Kim, go to go down a little bit in the ad. I know I circulated to the board, I don't see it there, an email that they sent. So this would be advertised for construction, I want to say around 2027 or 2028. So this wouldn't be done tomorrow, even once the public hearing comment, but it is to get that feedback in advance, because it takes a while for their engineering, and I'm sure the Corps engineer gets involved, because it's a river crossing. Rappahannock County would be given this notice as well, because this enters their county, even though we have a mutual aid agreement on how we handle fire and EMS in that corridor of the adjoining county location. So that's information. Public, please come. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that's all I have for information.
It's gonna be a fine suspension bridge. The only information I've got is, the sheriff got in touch with me, and Miss McKnight's, grants, for 2 SROs were approved. So good job for Miss McKnight, getting those.
Mr. Chairman, may on that topic,
by all
I
means.
was just having sidebar.
Yeah.
So I talked to Major Estes today. I left a message for Captain McKnight. The plan is they're gonna come down and talk with Ms. Warren possibly this week. They just wanna run some numbers. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the cliff notes from what my board report could look like. Please don't take any dollar amounts to stone until Ms. Warren has a chance to analyze them. If you may recall at your budget workshops, and you have talked at past meetings about the desire to have an SRO in all schools. The original SRO grant continuum was approved, and that's for Mr. Dillon, who's the SRO at the Waverly Elementary School. This would allow, one of the 2 positions would be allowed for an SRO at the primary school. We already have one at high school, and this would also be filling a vacancy that's been filled somewhat interimly by Mr. Richards, but that's not the long-term goal. So this grant would be for the SRO at the middle school, as well as putting one in the primary school. We have to look at numbers between the offset of a past or recent retirement of a major, as well as any other monies may be there. So we don't know if there's going to be any new costs that we would bring to the board to consider with this good news, or it may be cost neutral. It is good news that the grants were awarded. It is for 2 positions. I went on site today. I think it's 78,000. Naturally, that's not 100% cover. I think it's a 50-50 or something. We'll bring that detail back. So stay tuned. It could be coming to you at the June 11th or maybe the second June meeting. I know the major has said they have some training on the 11th. They may not make it back. So, Ms. Warren, any thoughts?
I did speak to Major Estes today, and he was planning to, he and Captain McKnight put together a PowerPoint to present, and then in that PowerPoint, I can help them put together the numbers aspect, and they would come the second meeting in June to present that, if that's good for the board.
That work for everybody?
Sure, yes.
Hopefully more numbers and less PowerPoint. All right, anybody else got any information and correspondence?
Mr.
Please.
Chairman, I did want to follow up with Mr. Weekly on the proposed changes to the zoning with regard to storm water and all that kind of stuff. Does the office work with Culpeper Soil and Water Conservation District at all on any of this? Do they collaborate, consult with one another?
Mr. Sexton, I don't know all the members. Obviously, there are elected officers, and then there are staff. I know Mr. Sexton works directly with a Richard Jacobs. That's usually
Okay.
the staff comment report that I received. The Planning Commission, I saw Chairman Carpenter just assign this, I believe, to one of the committees, so they'll be reviewing it. My thoughts, and I think I've said this to Chairman and Vice Chairman at our agenda review meeting, is while the comprehensive plan is more of your guiding document, it's not law. Your ordinances are law. Maybe you want to look at that to see what language is in slopes. Look at the language that, the only district I'm aware of that has any language of slopes right now is your C1. It's odd that this wasn't C1, but it's A1. And then couple that with any review of adjacent counties, you may want to see what they're doing, or maybe even southwestern Virginia. There's a lot that they do on slopes. And complementary put together, but I'd recommend looking, and I'm sure they will, at all your zones, because it's I don't know if you have any B1 that's in heavy slopes, but honestly, sir. I haven't scanned the GIS to look at everything, but I do think we need to spend some time in it and make sure all zoning mirrors that, as well as what we may be communicating in our comprehensive plan. I was reviewing some of the ordinance language when the neighbors were speaking a little while ago, and there's some reference to the intent of the comprehensive plan reference slope, but it doesn't say mandated or shall or whatnot. So I think it's an opportunity to make everything align to the wishes of the board and the citizens.
Okay, thank you for
Yes, sir.
clarification.
Any other comments?
That's all from me, Mr. Chairman.
Public comment. Public comment. Ms. Campbell, you have public comment?
I want to give Ms. Warren one heck of a high five for using Smart Sheet. That is a wonderful tool that I absolutely enjoy using. So great job, great job. The other comment I have.
You got a microphone for her?
Oh, it's
No, it's not. No, we're required to do it. No, tell us who you are, Ms. Campbell, please.
I'm Jennifer Campbell.
Thank you.
So great job, Ms. Warren, on the use of smart sheets. And then the last thing I wanted to comment on that I noticed tonight, and it's just a question that I missed the opportunity to get an answer to, and that was with, I only know him as Noah, EMS.
Hillstrom.
Thank you, Hillstrom. I noticed that when he presented what the communities around us are charging for ambulance fees, that all local counties surrounding us were not included. And that, to me, was a poor assessment, because it's going to be local surrounding counties that are going to have those traveling accidents. And I would like to see that fee around all of our counties, Culpeper, Orange, they were all excluded. If you go back right there, Orange, Rappahannock, Culpeper were excluded. And that's going to be our core travelers, and where we as drivers would also be going and potentially having accidents as well. So I just think regionally we need to assess before we should have approved, in my opinion, that agreement.
Did they not provide it, the counties?
That's what that means. I mean, I know FOIA should work. We'll go back out and solicit them again. That should be available unless they're not participating, but I know Culpeper participates as well as, I believe, Orange. Rappahannock, I don't know what they do, so it's a very good point. Our closest that we work with quite often is Green, but certainly understand the relevance of that comment.
May I also add that the population is a lot more similar in the communities that are outed than the larger counties and cities that are listed there.
I can reach out to Valerie Lamb in Culpeper and try to get that information, as well as Sarah Keeler. Village.
All right, other public comment? Has anybody been watching us? 0 people, we're consistent. All right, no closed session tonight. What would you like to do?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This conference is no longer being recorded.